complicated thing we call life.
Welcome back. Now we do the concept of happiness, right? So most of this information comes from the World Happiness Report of 2012, right? So the World Happiness Report started out coming out in 2012, where the UN started measuring the world's happiness country by country, right? To find out the world's happiness. So let's begin from here. If I asked you, are you happy, right? Some of the major things that you'll be thinking about that might affect your happiness are your income, basically, right? Like how much money you actually have. Because uh, if you have more money in your pocket as an individual, the more stuff you can do, right? The more stuff you can have access to, and the more stuff you can enjoy, right? So that's what you'll be thinking. Because as people who are less privileged in terms of economic status, right, less privileged or poor people, you suffer for safe homes, food, clothing, shelter, good sanitation, quality education, etc., etc. All those are the afflictions of the poor, right? Those are the people who, the poor people who are less privileged, suffer with such things, and an increased income would deal with most of them, right? If not all of them. Actually, if you were told that can you switch places with some of the rich people in this world, you wouldn't hesitate but take it, right? Like you would want to switch places with any of those rich people, right? Getting the amount of money they have, having the things that they have, you would want to. But affluency also comes with its own afflictions. You have obesity, adult onset diabetes, tobacco related illnesses, eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia, psychosocial disorders, and addictions to shopping, eating, and gambling. These are some of the disorders that people who are affluent face, and you might laugh. However, these are some of the things that affluent people are actually going through. It also comes with social decline, right? Loss of community, right? Anxieties that come from the modern global economy. You start dealing with all these other things that now that you're not struggling, thinking about, oh, what am I going to eat next? You're not struggling, what am I going to have shelter over my head or anything like that. You're struggling with so many other things. Right now you're looking at a well-paying job. Now you're scared because if that job goes, right, now you're in a position where you're vulnerable, and all those anxieties and all that panic and all those issues that come about with affluency. So you see that the increase of average household income does not mean all of a sudden that household is happy, right? So one of the case studies that has been done, and it was written in that article, right, the World Happiness Report of 2012, was the USA, right? So the USA since 1960 had increased drastically in its economy, right? Since the 1960 up to present day, its economy spiked. However, they noticed that during that period of time that the economy was increasing and the household income was increasing too, um, the happiness levels of the community, right? The happiness levels of the community remained unchanged. So think about it. High rise in terms of income, individual home, but the happiness was remaining unchanged, right? And so they were wondering, like, what exactly is going on? One of the scholars, Estelin, right, commented on the USA that ideally, the richer you are, the happier you should be. However, that was not the case for the USA. I'll read one of the paragraphs from the World Happiness Report of 2012. It stated that, as one key example, the world's economic superpower, the United States, has achieved striking economic and technological progress over the past half century without gains in the self-reported happiness of the citizenry. Instead, uncertainties and anxieties are high. Social and economic inequalities have widened considerably. Social trust is in decline, and confidence in government is at an all-time low. Perhaps for these reasons, life satisfaction has remained nearly constant during decades of rising gross national product per capita. According to Estelin, so that wasn't Estelin's statements, but according to Estelin, right, some of the reasons why, even though America is becoming richer, the community was remaining unhappy, or its happiness levels were being constant, were one, because of comparison, right? So he argued that one of the reasons is because of comparison. That people, no matter how well they were to do, there was this social comparison that they were always trying to be the top in the social ladder. So you're okay, basic needs are met, everything's alright, you have a nice car, but you're looking at someone else who's in a better place than you, and you're unsatisfied with your life. Hence, you try and climb the social ladder, and that's one of the reasons why people were not happy. Contentment. You're not content with your situation. You're not content with what you had. Hence, trying to climb the social ladder, the quest itself of trying to climb that social ladder was what was bringing a lot of unhappiness. Another reason that he gave for why there was so much unhappiness despite the spike in the economic state of America was because there was lack of equal distribution from the gains, right? So the gains were mostly going to the top people in the economic bracket or in the educational bracket. That's where most of the gains of the economy were going. Another reason that he gave were societal factors, such as insecurity, lack of social trust, and declining confidence in the government. The last reason that he gave for why the unhappiness levels were such in the USA was the aspect of adaptation. So this is what he argued. He argued the initial increase of income in your pockets, or the increase of your income in your household, will produce happiness. For example, you have a salary of 7,000 per month, and then all of a sudden we increase it to 20,000 per month, right? You'll obviously be happy, like really excited, because now you can afford so many things. However, that excitement does not maintain. That happiness that you feel when that happens does not maintain. You soon adapt, right? You soon adapt to your new circumstances, your new income, right? And if you're not careful, then you go back to the place where you're unhappy, right? Then you go back to a place where you're unhappy because now you're like, oh, but I don't have this other thing and I don't have that other thing. So now 20,000 is not enough anymore. But when you had 7,000, 20,000 was like, wow, that's great. And so from that 20,000, we increase again your salary to even 50,000, but still, you can adapt. You easily adapt to that situation. So that's what his argument was, right? That in America, they adapted. They got excited, then they adapted to that situation. And when they adapted, all these other issues came about where they were actually now, oh no, now we have all our basic needs met, but there's this here, there's that there, these are the problems this side, these are the what. These are the wants and needs that came about. So that was one of the reasons those are four of the reasons that he gave. Another issue that actually was brought up in the report was that one of the issues that could be considered as the reason why the situation in America is the way it is, and technically even in other countries, because America was the case study, but technically even in other countries, is the issue of advertising. Advertising's aim, right? Firstly, it's a big business in the world. Global, it's like $500 billion industry, right? It's a $500 billion industry globally. And what it does is that it creates wants and needs and urges and longings where there was none, right? Because if I'm going to bring to you a product, I want you to want that product. I want you to buy that product. So I'm going to advertise in a way that will make you want to take the product. You see various products associating themselves with the elite, right? The social elite, iPhone. Like, how people with iPhone, no matter how broke they are, but if they have an iPhone, they're best in the world. They advertise themselves in such appealing ways, using images, strong images, using a certain type of thing. We've seen even the problems that the beauty industry has brought about, where certain body types or certain skin complexions or certain issues, right, are now are practically shamed because the idea of beauty has been branded a certain way, right? So we see all those issues. So advertising then, right? So this person has a lot of money, this person is able to meet all their needs, but because of advertising, they are dissatisfied with their lives because maybe they're not so short or so low or so tall, or all these other things. So advertising then becomes a problem, and then also does diminish the happiness of the people in that society. So that showed that there was an extent at which high incomes in a society can actually increase the happiness and well-being of its individual citizens in that society, right? Case studies such as America. So then the question then begs, if we want to make human beings happy, we have to know what human beings are, right? It's simple. So, what exactly are human beings? Human beings, for the purpose of this discussion, are rational and emotional beings, right? So, we think and we feel. And one of the most important things that we have is actually our feelings. Because think about it, right? Laughing, we feel something, right? Like love, not necessarily saying that love is a feeling, but acts of love done, and when we receive them well, we feel a certain type of way, good way. We feel good about it, right? Um, when you enjoy something, you feel it. Majority of the things that really affect or define your experience are your emotions and not necessarily what happens, right? So for example, someone is just talking normally, but all of a sudden you get offended, and throughout that entire discussion, no matter how useful the information is, or no matter how when he or she never even meant to offend you, you are completely put off mood, right, during that entire conversation. So a lot of our experience of things has to do with our emotions, the way we feel about things, right? However, if we are going to be happy as human beings, we need a healthy balance of emotional and rational. Because most of the time, some of our decisions are actually led by emotions and instincts, right? And as a result, only later on rationalized. We actually only sit down and then think about what we did. So we do something, then sit down and think, oh wait, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And as a result, we end up in situations that are not so favorable to us. And they end up actually even damaging our lives or our reputations, etc., etc. For example, the student who locks himself up trying to pass exams, trying to be successful in life, but then they achieve that success and have no friends to share that success with. They end up depressed, they end up alone, right? And they end up not enjoying that success so well because, like, let's be honest, right? How many times can you eat in a restaurant alone until you actually realize you need people, right? Like, how many times can you actually go around the world traveling alone until you actually realize that you actually need people? Because let's say 2 3 years down the line of doing that, you realize that, wait, why am I so alone? Why do I have to be alone? And the quality of life that you experience going through that, some people are obviously there saying, no, wait, I can do that. Me, I can do it. Just give me the money. But the quality of life that you experience long term in such a situation, like, drastically reduces from someone in a less favorable economic state but has people around them, right? So that's human beings. On the flip side, though, is this student who is constantly playing with his friends, constantly following the group, and they are hanging out and spending less time studying. The result then is that their friends proceed and they remain behind, and hence in a bad economic state. So that's why we need a healthy balance, right? We need a healthy balance between emotional and rational decision making, because we easily make mistakes and fall into traps. We fail most of the time to rationalize between the moment that we're in and the future, and how that decision that we're about to make will affect the future, right? Reading a paragraph from the report, it states, we also understand, again, that we are social animals through and through. We learn through imitation and gain our happiness through meeting social norms and having a sense of belonging to the community. We feel the pain of others and react viscerally when others are injured or sad. We even have a set of mirror neurons that enable us to feel things from the point of view of others. All of this gives us a remarkable capacity to cooperate even with strangers, and even when there is little chance of reward or reciprocity, and to punish non-cooperators, even when imposing punishment on others is costly or puts us at risk ourselves. Of course, there are limits to such cooperation and fellow feeling. We also cheat, bluff, deceive, break our word, and kill members of an out-group. We engage in identity politics, acting as cruel to outsiders as we are loving to our own group. Hence, after reading that, you realize that you're supposed to ask the question, what next? After poverty is ended, after basic needs have been met, does that mean I'll be happy? Based off our reading, we notice that not so much. So, but then question can still be asked. Happiness looked at the national level Isn't happiness too subjective? Isn't it based off the individual, right? I know what makes me happy, I know what makes you happy, or you know what makes you happy, and all those things too subjective and too vague for you to say it's a national thing, right? Something that you can measure nationally. And yeah, this traditional research did show that, right? However, recently, various scholars have actually realized that you can measure happiness, right? There are two broad measurements of happiness, right? There's affective happiness and evaluative happiness. Affective happiness is the ups and downs of daily emotion, the day-to-day joy of friendship, family, and love, right? Wow, the appointment with the boss, or like your struggle with colleagues, or any of that drama, right, would affect it negatively, right? Evaluative happiness, on the other hand, is very systemic, right? So this has to do with like your satisfaction or frustration with your position in society. So your income level, your mental or physical health, and your trust in society, right? Just trust in community in society. While low income, ill health, and a decline in trust in society would mean that you're frustrated with life. And those are the large economic measurements, right? So if you see, especially from the measurement of the evaluative measurement of happiness, you notice that those elements are very systemic, right? They are in our system as a national system, meaning that looking at that, it stops being a vague principle, or it stops being a subjective principle, because some of those things are guarded and provided for in society. You see, right? That's why it's necessary, and that's why it makes sense for a nation to pursue national policies and to evaluate national happiness, so that when they pursue those national policies, they do it with the goal of increasing or improving the national happiness. That way, if we have that goal in mind, we can avoid happiness traps like the USA, where increased income levels, but the happiness levels stay the same, right? So just in case you might think that, oh no, but there's no really harm done if you develop without thinking of all these things. Let me give an example of DuPont Chemical Company. Now, DuPont Chemical Company is an American company that is $1 billion company. It's $1 billion company, right? So that's something that we would obviously want in Africa. A local company that is like over $1 billion worth in economic status. So for them, they produced a chemical, Teflon, or C8, right? So that's Teflon or C8, that's the name of the chemical. And it was used in things like non-stick, waterproofing, right, and stain resistant products, and they applied it to it. They developed it and they applied it to many products, and it was non-stick. So these are non-stick pans, non-stick anything, right? Stain resistance clothes, etc., etc. Now, something that they found out about Teflon, and that they found out was being hidden by the DuPont company for a long time, was that it was a chemical that when ingested in your body, right, or when it enters your body, it doesn't leave, right? It doesn't leave. It's like a forever chemical. That's what they also call it, a forever chemical. And the certain buildup of that amount of chemical in your body makes you sick. So you either get cancer, liver disease, thyroid disease, etc. Various diseases that come with an increased amount. Now this is the sad part. It is recorded that 98% of Americans have Teflon in their body. 98% of Americans have a chemical that with enough buildup can make them sick, and that was produced by $1 billion company DuPont. So that is the danger, right? That is the danger of development without a proper goal in mind. $1 billion company producing products that could kill people, right? That's the danger of such development. Without the development of increasing people's freedoms, without the development of happiness. So that's what we want to avoid as a country. So as I end the video, I want to ask you, observing your country and looking at how things are, right? What is the goal? How will things turn out? with the way the money is being invested, with the way the national policies are being pushed, where exactly will your country be? So in particular Zambia, where would it actually be in the near future? Applying that to the country, the only way that you can develop well and have a great future is if you become someone you haven't been before, meaning that you start thinking like a developed country. You start investing like a developed country. And when I say developed country, I don't mean America. We don't need to mimic, right? We don't need to mimic other countries that have been there. We don't need to mimic Britain. Oh, that's what development is. No. Development is within our own hands, right? Our freedoms, our choices, the things that we enjoy are unique to us as a society, right? Like I said, it's a systemic thing. Happiness, you can actually evaluate it systemically, meaning that different systems are in different countries. So the happiness in Zambia might not exactly be the happiness that's in South Africa, might not even exactly at all be the happiness that's in other countries, because it also has to do with the social setting, meaning culture is involved and all these things. Meaning a developed Zambia that stayed true to itself will not look the same as any other country. It will be different and unique, and that's how we need to start thinking. We need to start thinking in such a way, analyzing that the goal of development is personal freedoms, an expansion of personal freedoms. The national policies should be aimed at happiness, national happiness, evaluating all these things that have been mentioned: health, income, trust in social settings. All these things should be put in place, because that's when we can strive and thrive in a new future, a future where anything is possible, because if we dream it, we can have it. So thank you for watching Future Possibilities. I release videos, well, I'm supposed to be releasing videos every Friday. I do not want to make that commitment just yet, just in case things change, but watch out next Friday. I'll probably post a video, most probably. It will be another basics video, society and government. Thanks for watching.